Hey everyone, what's going on? So here we are. Spooky season has officially arrived. Depending on who you are, maybe that's October. Maybe that starts for some people. But as we're so close to October, we had to get a jump on some of these spooky movies, and so got a couple to talk about. But this particular episode is going to focus on one, and that is, of course, Night of the Harvest. Let's talk about it. So this was a film I had my eye on for a while. I was hoping to get a conversation with filmmakers Christopher M. Carr and Jessica Morgan on the books before now, but I wasn't able to make that work. I had other projects I was tied up with, but I'm still able to talk about the movie. So and I'm excited to do that. So if you don't know, you might just be hearing about it now. This is a nice indie slasher film that has a particular charm, and there's something that's really endlessly engaging about that. Before I talk about that, though, let's give you a little bit of a synopsis. So if you don't know what this film is about, it's about a group of people who get together for a Halloween party, and a slasher comes and does what slashers do. That's essentially what we got going. That's essentially what we have going on. But more pointedly, that's sort of the sort of surface level synopsis. But beneath the surface, the story is more about family and sisters, more specifically. And we follow a character by the name of Madison, played by Brittany Isabel, who, when we meet her, she's dealing with the grief. She's 1 year removed from a tragedy and a murder attempt, and so she's dealing with the feelings that come up with that, and to hopefully try to get her out of her slump, her older sister Audrey, played by Jessica Morgan, offers to invite her to a Halloween party with some friends, and then slasher things happen. So that's what we have going on. Among the friends, it's actually a pretty robust group of people, and that's kind of nice that you get to feel like the story is alive with a bunch of different people who are quirky characters and have their own personalities, and it really feels like a living, breathing scenario, and that you can go on as an audience member. It's completely conceivable that someone who's going through a tough time around Halloween time, or any kind of time where there's a social component to it, that someone who cares about you maybe wants you to get out of your shell. It's been a year after whatever the event is, and maybe some social activity will do you some good. And that's the linchpin that we're hanging the story on to move with, is a sister trying to help her fellow sister feel better. But the further you go, you start discovering other things, and you meet these other people, a larger cast of characters that have their own angles to play. And really, you find out that they're just this is a group of young people who want to have some fun on Halloween night. One of the things that's really cool about this movie is the characters in general. There's a range of characters that have their own personality, and even you're ranging from if you're not looking closely enough, you could make the mistake and relegate them to types. So you have the chatty, talkative friend. You have the bubbly, super excited about Halloween character. You have some characters who, if they had a choice, they wouldn't even deal with Halloween and would deal with other holidays like Valentine's Day or some other, which is the most opposite you can get from Halloween. And so stuff like that is interesting, because you have a lot of these different personalities to play off of. And if you're watching, it's like you put all these different pieces in a sandbox and watch them bounce off of each other. And that's part of the fun. The other part of the fun is the thrill element, which is you have all these bouncy characters and you put them in this sandbox, have them bounce off each other, but then also you introduce a force that is destructive. and it's only there to destroy. Now that's an interesting situation, which is, I think, if you look at the genre of slashers, that's essentially what you have. You have an environment that's already established doing something, and a force of something that is there to disrupt that. And some part of that setup is there to fight back and figure out how to survive, or they don't. And that the fun for the audience member is to see what happens. And Night of the Harvest is right in line with any of the slasher movies you can think of that fit that bill, because most of them do. Where Night of the Harvest differs, though, is its story, and I think that's certainly one of my favorite aspects of the film, the narrative. You think it's one thing, it's going one way, and you discover it's something completely different, which is not something you see in a lot of slashers, I think. And so anything like that immediately gets points from me, because I love when you get caught off guard and you're not expecting certain narrative turns, certain character decisions that feel logical to what is going on in the story, that take me out of the moment less. So I think Night of the Harvest does a good job with managing the different pieces of the story, and then giving you some things that you're not ready for. And that's certainly a strength of this project. Speaking of the strengths, I think the production design was actually pretty good. For you can feel the budgetary constraints of a film like this. And as speaking as someone who's been on sets like that, who's worked in projects similar to that, who's written my own projects like that, has been an actor on sets like that, it felt so oddly, something about it felt oddly comforting. You feel that there is there's a passion and a care for the stories being told, regardless of the budgetary constraints. And I think that the passion behind the camera is felt as an audience member. And it could just depend on who you are, but I'm a particular audience member who has a head for this kind of stuff. And so for me, it was enjoyable to feel the passion, and regardless of what I saw, like, oh, that could be better, but it wasn't even that, like, because that the what could be better falls away when you're immersed in the story. And I think the story kept me going, and I believed what I saw on set. That's endlessly commendable, because making a film is hard to do in the first place. There are all sorts of challenges and things that can come up, and you have to roll with the punches and turn out something. And I think what comes out is something, again, that feels passionate. The other thing I think that I appreciated about the film was you can feel the chemistry between the cast. You have about 9 people or so. You got a number of people, and you feel that everybody is there. There is a synchronicity going on with every person. You feel that there is an energy there. These people who really care about the story they're telling. They care about each other, and that's something that you don't always feel. I don't always feel when I'm watching movies, and particularly a slasher movie. It's not something you think about when you're watching a story. You're going in knowing that there's going to be a killer, and people are going to get jacked up. The last thing you think, in my opinion, is about how people who work on this project care about each other. But I don't know what to call it, but I felt it. And I think because you get the sense that the actors care about each other, and that the characters care about sort of what the scene is at hand, that makes for an engaging watch. Along those lines, my favorite character has got to be Dane, played by Jim Cerner. I believe it's Cerner. I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced, but he was such a presence. And I just appreciated his earnestness, and it really was grounding, I think, to see a character like that in this film, where as an audience member, you hope everything works out for characters like him and everybody else, really. But because it's a slasher, you know what you're signing up for when you're watching a movie like this. And the other thing that I appreciated about this film was that the story doesn't pull any punches. It's not precious with its characters. And that also is something else that's endlessly admirable. It gives you all the pieces. And then you have to watch as the pieces are moved and then broken, maybe shifted around. It's an interesting puzzle piece of a story. I think the movie does a good job negotiating all of that. And I think for what you have, it's serviceable. My only real issues that came up with the film had to do with pacing. I feel like there could have been some adjusting in terms of the pacing. Now, I don't know the inner workings of what came up for this particular project behind the scenes in the editing room, but I think how certain parts were edited could have been adjusted to where there was less space. There's this notion that I've felt for some time now watching independent productions where there is space given for scenes to breathe, for lines of dialogue to breathe, and for emotions to be felt, which generally I love. I love that there's more space in these movies that allow moments to land and allow them to have some degree of resonance. And I think the same is true in this movie. This movie does a good job of allowing space for things. Space for jokes, space for emotional moments, and space for when lines are communicated for things to sort of breathe and do however, even to the point to where things are awkward, like you get in real life. Sometimes there's awkward silences and stuff. My critique about that is that there are certain moments where it feels like there are one too many awkward spaces, where a few more cuts to shorten the space might have benefited some of those scenes. That's the only thing that I found challenging to sort of get behind in terms of the rhythm and the pacing of the film. Outside of that, though, I think it's a worthwhile effort. And again, as a film head and filmmaker person, and just someone who appreciates the art form, I really do think that there's a lot here, a lot to enjoy. I talked about the story, right? I think the production design is pretty decent. Also, the kills in this movie, which is a big deal when you talk about slasher films. The kills, are they worthy of the title slasher? I feel like you can have a slasher with run-of-the-mill kills and just have them just be whatever, and you can call it a slasher. But there's another layer of it, I think, for me, that the film has to earn the title of a slasher. And what I mean by that is the kills have to measure up to that. And I think in this movie, they do. The kills are very brutal. And I think the sound design does a lot to enhance the feeling of what happens when the kills occur. The sound design is particularly strong. So if you're looking for a slasher to get into and you're looking for the kills, then Night of the Harvest has got you covered. Because look, let's be honest. You're not watching a slasher film for the emotional stuff. You're watching for the kills. I mean, unless you're not, and then in which case you're not. But I feel like that's what you're going into a slasher for. You sign the contract knowing that kills are going to happen, and you want them to be thrilling. And I think that these kills are they're well executed. So say what you will about the production and the limited budget or whatever it is, but when it comes to the execution of the kills, I think this can stand alongside any other most other slashers. So yeah, there's enough here to get you excited for the spooky season. So let's say you start your Halloween viewings with a movie like Night of the Harvest. It's a good springboard, if you will, to other projects and other movies in the horror slasher genre. So Night of the Harvest is out today on digital platforms. Make sure you take a look, because I think it's worth it. Whatever criticisms you might have about it, it's worth a look. Yeah, that's going to do it for this review. Stay tuned. We got more reviews coming up, particularly spooky season ones. I got a couple more other ones to talk about, but Night of the Harvest was a good one to start with. So, all right, I got to take off, but thank you for taking the time to watch this video and hanging out with me for a little bit. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. In the meantime, have a great day, and I'll see you later.